Hey guys, welcome back. I'm Rob, and today I'm in Mount Rainier National Park in Washington State. That's hence the rain. It's winter time, it's November, late November, and today I am going to spend the day in the park and I'm going to show you all the cool things that you can do on a wet, miserable day in Washington. If you are regular to this channel, you'll know I come to Mount Rainier quite a lot, particularly in the summertime, and there's some amazing alpine hikes and vistas and stuff, but it's also a really cool place to come if you want to get away from the hustle and bustle in the city in places like Seattle, and come and just get a little bit of that moody Pacific Northwest vibes. Now, the first benefit of coming on a cold, wet, wintry day is the crowds. There's hardly anyone here. That's my car, and you can see there's hardly any other cars here in the car park. So the plan is I'm going to show you some of the short trails and longer trails that you can do from here in Longmire, which is on the Nisqually entrance. Most of the rest of the park is closed anyway. And all of these trails are also accessible for like snowshoeing and stuff like that as well. It's not quite going to have those amazing views of the mountain, but if you can appreciate the forest, you'll really enjoy this. So the road up to Paradise is actually closed in week, and on weekends it's open for recreation. However, it does depend on the weather, and it only opens from about 10 a.m. in the morning, 9 a.m. in the morning until a little bit later. So you can just see the road just there, and it'll get ploughed later, and then they'll assess it for opening. So Longmire's got a fairly big parking lot. It's sort of the main hub for the park year round. So you've got the transportation exhibit, you've got some restrooms, you've got a museum. That's the Wilderness Permit Centre, where I got my permit for the Wonderland Trail a few years ago, and the National Park Inn, which is the year-round accommodation here in the park. And the first trail that I'm going to take you on is the Trail of the Shadows. Now, this is a family-friendly 0.7 mile loop, and it's going to give you a little bit of an overview of this Longmire area. So Longmire is named after James Longmire, who opened a mineral springs resort here in the 1880s. So there is like a little area where you can I got a bit distracted there. There is an area where you can see some like historic homesteads. There is like some brooks. Quite often you spot deer here. Occasionally some different birds, and beaver have been spotted here as well. Again, this can get quite busy in the peak of the season, but on a quiet day like this, I think these sorts of sites take on a sort of new charm, I guess is the word that I'm looking for. So I'll just pan the camera around so you can see. So this is what the trail is like. It's pretty easy to follow. It's a loop trail, so you don't need to worry about maps and stuff like that. Of course, it's always handy to have things like all trails so you don't get lost, but it's definitely not necessary. And there's all these information boards that you'll find around, which give you just that little bit of history about the springs that were here. And there are some little vista points as well. I'll just take you up to this first spot so you can have a little look at the meadow. Again, it's a small trail, so it's not covering a great distance, but I have seen some really cute baby deer, and I even saw a buck deer here this morning, and you can just see that sort of moody sky above, which is so typical of this area. And if you come to some of the view spots where you can see ponds like this, you do stand a chance of seeing beaver. They do come to Longmire, but they're not seen every year, so they do tend to come and go. But this is the sort of spots where you can look out for them. And you're typically going to look for signs that there's been a lot of movement, and obviously the obvious things like the dams and stuff like that. But it doesn't look like I can see any this morning, but it's still really cool to come and check it out. And obviously if you've got little ones, it's a great sort of spot to do a bit of like wildlife watching, especially if it's something that's going to get people hyped up about being outside. The trail sort of splits its time from being in the open to coming into these darker foresty sections where you can see all the moss. Very atmospheric. forest trails like this are perfect for wet, miserable days, because whilst you still obviously need to be protected in the right gear, having the trees and the forest around you, it creates a kind of canopy, which, not canopy, clearly I'm getting hungry. But yeah, it creates like just that extra sort of like barrier that helps to protect you. So it can make being out and about on a rainy day a little bit more enjoyable, because you're not just getting pelted with rain constantly. So this, I believe, is the last remaining from like several cabins that once would have stood here. So it's quite cool to check that out. You can kind of have a little nosy inside as well. And this exhibit is just showing you some of the iron that has been separated from the water as it was heated and brought out of the ground at this spring, which is really cool. And you can see how it sort of builds up in the ground underneath. Okay, so this one is quite close to my heart. I did the one... Okay, so this one is kind of close to my heart. I did the Wonderland Trail in 2023, and it was one of the best things I've ever done. And this is a huge section, the easiest section, I'd argue, of the trail. It's quite long, but it's pretty flat. There is elevation change, but it's not drastic. And it sort of meanders alongside the road up to Paradise. God, that's close. That's better. Yeah, so the trail's going to head up to several waterfalls. There's Madcap Falls, there's Narada Falls. Ultimately, you can get all the way to Reflection Lakes. Now, this is a great hike to do in the winter, because obviously it's accessible from Longmire, which is obviously really handy when the road behind me up to Paradise is closed. But also, it can mean as well that this could work quite well if you need to snowshoe, because this trail, whilst it gets snow, it's not anything like insane, but it's easy to navigate, which makes it a great option for snowshoeing. Just like the Trail of the Shadows and Rampant Ridge, this trail is not a paved trail, and whilst it's not very steep, it's not accessible for strollers or wheelchairs. Just to bear that in mind. But I'll just pan around now and show you some of the trail. You can see it's relatively flat in this section, but I have had some steps to climb. There's a lot of gravel, and you can see right here, this is the road up to Paradise. Now, right now, the road is visible, but there are sections of the trail where you do lose the road, and it's a fair distance to get back to it. So if you are thinking, because in the winter it's so quiet, like there is nobody on this trail, guys, like it makes you feel very alone. And sometimes that's quite intimidating, and it's okay to admit that that can be intimidating sometimes. So I always get a bit of comfort knowing that the road isn't too far away. Like if there was to be, like if you were to fall or something like that, it's nice to think that you could run to the road and potentially someone would come by in not too long. Now, obviously the road is closed at the moment, but because it is a weekend, it is forecast to open. It's currently like 8:30 a.m. and the road's scheduled to open from 9, but they open it when it's ready, so that can be later. So I'll keep an eye, and then obviously the plan is to head up as far as I can up towards Paradise later today. And in the past when I've done this hike, I did it in I think it was November. Oh God, why do I keep doing this? That's better. Sorry. It was early November that I did it. And the road up to Paradise was so icy. It was really, really icy. So sometimes it's just, you haven't got the right traction or it doesn't open at all. So it's nice to know that you have got these trails in the lower elevation. Longmire is actually at, I think, 2,700 feet. So compared to a lot of the rest of the park, it is a very low elevation. They do get snow, and I really recommend that you check out the Mount Rainier website for the weather forecast, because they update it and they'll give you a description of where the snow level is, and how many inches they expect to accumulate up at Paradise. So I find that easier to sort of digest than just Googling Mount Rainier weather, because that will just tell you a generic forecast for the area. But obviously when you're coming up onto the mountain, you kind of need to know where the snow is going to be and where it's going to be accessible for you. So you'll get to spots that are close to the river. This is the Nisqually River, and also some that are a little higher up like this. And you can see down into the canyon carved out by the flow of the river. And there's all these lichen on the trees. What I really like about this trail and this section of the trail is you can go as far as you want. You can take it the way that you want it to be. So if you want to just go up to Cougar Rock and just get some views of the Nisqually River, you can do that. But you can go all the way up to Paradise. It's 5 miles to head all the way up to Paradise. It is very steep because obviously there's a lot of elevation gain. There's probably, I want to say there's 4,000 feet of gain. So it's a very, very long morning to get up there. But you can also go to Reflection Lakes, and it's about 11.2 miles round trip to Reflection Lakes. I always find, I don't know if anyone else has this, but when it's really cold, it sounds like I'm slurring my words because I feel like my mouth is so frozen. I can't talk. But yeah, it's a very dense forested hike, so that obviously doesn't give you the most views. But after about 2 miles is when you'll get your first view of Mount Rainier itself. And that's at Mountain View if you follow the All Trails map. So that's the sort of thing that you're going to look out for. And it's very close to the Cougar Rock campground. So even if you can only make it that far, I think that in itself is a nice 4 mile round trip hike or snowshoe. And I think it's worth it. So there's a lot of mud on the trail. When I did it last time, it was very icy, and I'm sure it'll get icy as I get higher. But as you can see, it really is raining today. There is a lot of moisture. And so far, I've not passed a single other person on the trail. Okay, so the trail that I've been hiking has just come from in this forest clearing here. You can see the sign there for the Ones on Trail, and then a big sign for Carter Falls. So the update is, dun dun dun, Carter Falls trail is closed as the footbridge has washed away. So I'm going to put on the screen now, this is the footbridge that I crossed over last time I did this hike, and it takes you to Madcap Falls and Carter Falls, and you cross over the glacier water. Now that has washed away, so this is impassable. So I'm going to show you. You can hike still down here and get out onto the riverbed. And the reason I'm going to show you this is because I don't know how long it's going to take for them to fix this up, but you can walk out here and I'm going to just head a little ways out, so bear with me. But the reason I'm taking you out here, guys, is because if you can't get up to Madcap Falls and Carter Falls, I still think this is a really good option for a wet, gloomy day, or even better on a snowy, blue sky day. So not snowy, but when it's been snowy. But you can come out here, which is really cool. You're walking out into the bed of where the river has been, where the lava flow has been historically. It's really, really cool. And here, you normally would see Mount Rainier. So this is mountain view. Now, obviously, on a rainy day like today, it's just not an option because it's so cloudy and rainy that you can't see the mountain. But if it's on a clear day, you might find that the road up to Paradise is still closed because it's a weekday or because there's been heavy snowfall, but you could snowshoe here or hike here otherwise. And as long as the mountain is visible, you'll get a really good view of the mountain. And you can also, and I'll again just get as close as I can to show you without obviously getting myself in a pickle, but you can see how close you get to the river. So really, really cool to get closer. Now the trail, I can't actually see from here, but it's over there somewhere. I think it's here. I think the footbridge used to be there, and it would go like that. So obviously, yeah, it's washed away, so there's no way of getting over there at the moment. But it's still really cool to come down and see it all. And you never know, you might get lucky and see the mountain. The clouds lifting today, so it might even come out later. But yeah. So there we go. Look, the things I do for you guys. But yeah, nice forest hike. And it's just under 2 miles to get here, so not even a 4 mile round trip to get back to Longmire. And by the time I get back, the road up to Paradise should be open. So I'll show you a few other stops on the way up to Paradise, and then we'll have a look and see how high we can get and see what the conditions are like up there today. But I think that's what you need to bear in mind when you come to Mount Rainier. In winter, you just need to be prepared. I will put on the screen the exact opening for the road up from Longmire to Paradise, but if I base it on like historical years, the last few years it's only been done on like Friday, Saturday, Sunday, so there is no way of driving up there in the middle of the week anyway. Like, it's just not an option, which is worth bearing in mind because you just don't know. But yeah, hopefully I will be able to head up and see some more waterfalls, some of the pull-in views, and then get up to Paradise today. So yeah, stick with me. So if you can make it up to the Paradise Road, one of the best stops, I think, in my opinion, is Narada Falls. So this is a great option if it's quite icy, you can't really park, or you can't go very far. There is another hike a bit further down called Comet Falls, which I really like, and I do it quite a lot, but it's also in an avalanche zone, so it's really not a good idea to do that trail when the conditions aren't very good. But I'm going to show you Narada Falls now. So I've just parked just in this little pull-in here. So it's really easy. You can see some of the Tash, I think it's called, range just above. And then you can see, this is actually Narada Falls just down there. But what's great about this is you walk over this little bridge here, and then you connect down here to the Narada Falls Trail. Now this is a very short trail. You can get down as far as Longmire, so you can go all the way down there. You can connect to the Wonderland Trail. Obviously there's another sign here to say that Carter Falls is closed. But the trail is just a little hike through this little bit of forest. And then what's going to happen is we're going to descend. You might be able to see them from here. There is some steps just over there. And we're going to hike down there, and then we'll get a view of the falls. The trail itself is, whilst it's short, is very steep, so you're going to go down on this muddy, sort of sandy trail. So in winter, I definitely would recommend having like good boots on. I think in tennis shoes, you might find this really slippy. You get a little glimpse there of the falls, but I'm going to get a good view in a sec. And just worth bearing in mind if you've got little ones that that's how steep it is heading up, so it is pretty steep. This is a great one for a short walk, which gives you a lot of bang for your buck. And I think it's a pretty spectacular fall. It's actually, I don't know if you guys go to Yosemite a lot. If you watch the channel, you probably do, because I'm always in Yosemite. But this is giving major mist trail vibes. But yeah, and you can see right down there where it heads down into the river below. And the parking lot is just up here. Now, if you do this trail in the summer, I mean trail I use lightly, it's a short walk, I know, but if you come here in the summer, this is packed because this is an easy thing that everybody wants to come and do. It's one of the biggest falls in the park, so it's, you know, it's a major focal point. But here it is, Nevada Falls. Now, if you want to continue all the way down to Longmire, or you want to connect it as a hike, it's just through the forest here, and that'll take you onto the trail that I was on earlier. There's also a nice little cool information board there as well. So I've made it up to Paradise, and this is where you normally get your first majestic view of Mount Rainier, but not today. So you might be able to see from the parking lot behind me, this is very unusual for Paradise, and that's because it's so dead up here. Now, if you come later in the season, later in winter, the snow has built up over months and months, and it's one of the snowiest places in the whole of the US. So you'll find very deep powder, like there's a lot of ploughing needed, but times like this, it's not too bad. It's very icy. There's going to be a lot more snow further up, but I'm definitely going to be able to do some of it as a hike. And I've got spikes with me today. But I would recommend bringing snowshoes if there's recently been snowfall. And you can check out the Mount Rainier webcams. They're a really good source because you can see exactly what the conditions are like before you head up. So just a few months ago, I hiked this trail and saw gorgeous fall colours and wildlife. And winter is already here. In fact, I think it was exactly about 6 weeks ago that I was last here. And you can see the Skyline Trail. So this Skyline Loop Trail is the trail from here. And the trail itself is about 7 miles as a round trip, maybe a bit less actually, maybe more like 6. And you definitely would need snowshoes for most of it, but I'm going to see how far I can get. But you can see just from the trail conditions that there is a light dusting of snow and ice on the trail itself. But at the moment it's pretty easy to follow. And way down there, oh, wrong way. That's the Jackson Visitor Centre. Now in previous years that's been closed, but according to the signage outside it's open Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays and Sundays from 10 until 3:30. So if it is indeed open, I will take you in there once I'm done with this. So it started to get a little bit slippy and a little bit harder to walk on, so I've put my spikes on, and I definitely think spikes are needed. It's currently raining, but this could turn to snow. So the National Park Service here in Mount Rainier insist on all visitors carrying chains from the 1st of November to the 1st of May, and that's just because they do get extreme weather that occurs very quickly, especially at high altitude like here at Paradise. So it's a really good idea to make sure you've got snow tyres, but traction tyres on your car, and you've got chains with you, because if it changes to snow, it can sometimes take a while to get to your car, and then if you need to get down the mountain, you might struggle. But it's so pretty. Like you can see all the snow. And again, this will all be buried in even just like 2 weeks, and it's a lot harder to find the trail then. What I really like about Paradise is there is this extensive hike called the Skyline or the High Skyline Loop Trail, and you can also go up obviously to the summit from here. But there's also lots of spur trails, lots of short little trails that meander often around the main trails, and you can kind of make your own hike. So, for example, I am not going to be doing some expedition where I'm going to be like downhill skiing and stuff today, which is what a lot of people are doing up here today. And there's not that much snow still, like it's still early in the season. But if you just want to play in the snow, or you want to just do a little hike in the snow, a little snowshoe, or you want to just get used to using your snowshoes, you really can make it work up here. And I like that. I think it works very, very well. You can see all these like spur trails that just go off. And the signs are all quite obvious this time of year. Obviously, it'll get a bit harder to spot them as the season goes on. If you can't venture too far and you're looking for a short walk where you can see some kind of view, even when the mountain's obscured, then I recommend heading up to Myrtle Falls. Now, this is a 0.4 mile trail from the Paradise parking lot. I'm doing that slurring thing again because I'm so cold. But again, because I can't see the mountain at all today, this is a really good spot if you want to just do a little walk but still get a view. So I'll take you and show you now. You can go down to a lower viewpoint, which is down these steps, but it's really treacherous in the ice and snow. So I'm going to just take you to this footbridge here because you can still see them just down here as well. So this footbridge here at Edith Creek is actually the top of Myrtle Falls. So the main fall is a bit further down. So I will take you over there to show it to you. But I just wanted to point out, if you couldn't make it down there, you can still see a little bit of the waterfall from here. And the mountain normally is visible from there, and it makes such a nice shot. If I remember, I'll stick the shot in now so you can see it. But beyond here, you can take the Skyline Trail. You can venture as far as you feel like, really. But I'll be honest, it's only going to be more snowy when you leave. This is at 5,600 feet, and it will get a lot more snowy as you carry on. So you can see the steps down here. It's really steep. And I definitely am grateful I've got spikes on, because I think I'd struggle otherwise. Quite funny is you can actually see all the handprints where people have been on their all fours trying to make their way back up. So here is officially Myrtle Falls. So I should have probably said earlier on, it's obviously a significantly better view when you come and see it from this viewpoint. Otherwise it is just more of a stream trickle. But when the mountain's out, that other view is really nice. I just think that when the mountain's not out, it doesn't quite hit the same as this one. Aside from being really, really warm, there is lots of information in here, like trail recommendations with current status of the trails in the park. And there's also rangers that you can speak to if you want to ask any questions. And you can find out where the snow is and where it's likely to be the easiest for you to get to today. I always like to take a look at this as well, because obviously I did the Wonderland Trail a few years ago, so I can see exactly the route that I took on the Wonderland Trail. I started here in Longmire and headed all the way around Ismarich Lake, so I got my first resupply. They also have free Wi-Fi here as well, which I think is very, very nice. So upstairs there's a really good gift shop where I just picked up a placemat which I really like, which has a black bear on it. I did accidentally smash a Christmas ornament, and the man was really nice about it, but I feel awful. I'm like mortified, but yeah, I'm having a hot flush now. It's very warm in here. But yeah, they've also got these exhibits up here, so lots of information about the wildlife, about the park itself, and yeah, I think it's really interesting. And it's a good way to spend some time if the weather is a little bit off, especially if you want to warm up after being out on the trails as well. After that morning up on the mountain, freezing cold, I'm definitely ready for a nice slice of warm cheese pizza to re-heal me. Yeah, and it's great that it's open today. I wasn't expecting that at all. So guys, there you have it. That's how I've spent a rainy day in Mount Rainier National Park. I hope the video's been helpful. I definitely recommend heading up to the park, even if the weather's not great, because you can still have an amazing time. But I also long for the summer days of the alpine hags and the wildflowers and wildlife. But if you've enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys again soon.